Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the ESL Major League here for day number 2 of week 2, as we've already had quite a lot of games play out throughout the past couple of days over this past 2 weeks. And of course, now we come to the conclusion of week number 2 with quite a few cool teams playing, but obviously there's been quite a lot of changes over the past 2 days. My name is Kyle Aris, along with Kaldor. As always, how are you doing, man?
Hey everybody. I'm doing very well. I'm excited for the games today. We had some games already yesterday on the new patch, but today is going to be a test for especially these teams that established themselves already in the Major League. So they have their first shot at the new patch now, had a bit more time to prepare than the teams of yesterday's qualifier, and I'm really interested to see if we're seeing a similar meta.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point that you actually bring up, because yesterday we did have that qualifier that you were able to cast for that 8th spot, and unless you actually didn't watch that, it's important to know that Fnatic was able to be victorious moving on forward. So before we get into today's games, let's have a quick chat about that, because you were casting it, obviously,
Yeah.
and we saw quite a diversity in heroes picked, about like 23 or so heroes picked, according to how things were being tracked out. But how did you go for you?
Yesterday was insane. The finals blew me away, and I think before the last game, they went into a third map. I was probably more nervous than the actual players. It was crazy. I don't know if it was the coffee, but my hands were shaking when we were going through the draft. It was just absolutely amazing. We had so many changes, and the one thing that especially Fnatic was trying to do the entire time was to go for the combo with Illidan and Rhaegar, and then round that up with Tyrande for the extra damage. And they built their combo around that, trying to get into Muradin as well. And they were in the finals nearly always able to get their perfect setup, and it was extremely impressive. And we had SK actually countering the whole thing with Diablo, which was just mind-blowing. It was beautiful, and it was very, very nice to see that. And they actually played Sky Temple twice, and I didn't see that coming. After the first Sky Temple round, where Fnatic was just blown away, we suddenly saw Sky Temple being picked again. I couldn't believe it. And then the game went a completely different path. They picked up Sergeant Hammer, who is now extremely strong with that extra talent that he has on level 20 now, with those new talents that Blizzard moved in. So the games were intense. Not only the final, but especially that. That best of 3 was absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I was very surprised to see Diablo. I really wasn't expecting that. I played a few games with him myself yesterday. Played one, and I thought it was going okay, and then played a second one, and I just misplayed. So that wasn't exactly the best of times for me, but it was interesting to see how things really played out yesterday. And congratulations, Fnatic, of course, who have moved on to today, and we'll be playing in our second series against El Nexo. But our first series is going to be We Are Not Prepared, going up against Team Acer. Two teams who, unfortunately for them, in week 1 actually lost their first series. So this one's very, very important for them.
Yeah, actually, We Are Not Prepared is in the very fortunate spot that with Alternate not being part of the league anymore, that loss
Oh
doesn't
yeah,
count.
that's
So
true.
they get another chance at that, and that is for them very, very nice. So it's going to be interesting to see how they're gonna do today. And then, of course, I believe that we have that match that we need to play on next
Next
Tuesday. Is
Tuesday.
it right?
Yeah, yeah. Yep, so there will be 3 games actually next Tuesday compared to the normal 2, as we'll be filling in, as you mentioned, with that We Are Not Prepared versus Fnatic game coming up. So we actually have Team Acer already good to go into the bans and picks. We're just waiting on We Are Not Prepared, but it's going to be on Cursed Hollow is our first map between these two. And I have been looking forward to this moment all day, Kaldor, because I am so excited to see the bans and picks of our first series.
Yeah, it's very difficult to expect anything here. Yesterday, of course, gave us a bit of a glimpse into the new meta, but
Uh-huh.
it's not really that it's already established. It's not something where you can say, all right, this is going to be it from now on, and teams are going to try to at least take those priority picks here. Because the teams yesterday only had, I think it was 6 hours or 7 hours to prepare for that.
Yeah.
So today, there might be something completely different happening. We're actually going into the picks and bans already. It just opened up. And what we saw yesterday, well, the hate on Zeratul is real in this patch.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
maybe the first thing that we should point out. But now you can go for something that we are not prepared are already doing. You can go at the first level for a bit of a bullshit ban. You ban something out that you just don't want to play. You don't want to play against him. It does not matter to you. And then you will end up with either Zeratul or Stitches in your lineup. And most of the time, you have then the second team either banning out Zeratul because they say, okay, we can deal with the Stitches. Or they also go for a ban like that, and then they get at least one of the 2 heroes.
Yeah. I mean, as you were saying, Zeratul is very much so still in the limelight for those bans. Very, very powerful, especially when you get to level 20 there with him. And then even Stitches, for me, since patch, I don't think enough is done to dissuade people to not have him as a big prime choice for a ban as well. I mean, the hook is still extremely powerful. It's able to win out in good positions in the later games. And, you know, the gorge damage being pushed onto that, or being taken away at least, it's not enough to take the idea of a ban away.
Yeah. Well, at this point, you know, one of the actually, like, Acer is taking their sweet time with that ban here. It's actually something like those things surprise me a bit, because it's one of those things that you should really like think about before the game starts. Already, what's your ban going to be, what your opponent could ban, what the likely options are. And they already know that if they ban out anything else but a Zeratul, we are going to see Zeratul for We Are Not Prepared. And I would be, I would be very surprised if they wouldn't do that, because Black Scorp, he's just a monster on that hero. So giving Black Scorp Zeratul in the last pitch was already a nightmare. Giving him Zeratul right now, well, you can basically pack your bags and go home.
Yeah, he'll play that well. He will. So we're seeing Stitches come out from We Are Not Prepared. And then on the other side of things, Team Acer have gone for Hammer. As you said before, you know, very powerful now, with especially the level 20 talent once that kicks in. Of course, the changes for her before then aren't as huge, with a little bit, you know, a little change to Bullhead Mines. Only the middle Widow Mine doing something in terms of knockback. But other than that, she was powerful in the previous meta, and has already found her place here nicely.
Well, she's probably one of the the strongest heroes that we have in the game right now, because that 20 talent that she gets, where she gets an additional 20% range and 25% attack speed, is insane.
Yeah, it's brutal.
It makes her into a killing machine. And another pick that we're seeing now for Ace is Tyrande, and Tyrande is picked in this case to pick Tyrande away from Stitches. That's one of the reasons why you want to get Tyrande here.
Yeah.
Of course, she's a bit vulnerable to Stitches, but that combo that we are seeing, especially yesterday a lot, that you hook a target in, you immediately put Hunter's Mark on it with Tyrande, and then lock it down with another stun, that drops nearly everything. It doesn't matter what you hook, if that stun and the Hunter's Mark hit, it's dead. So that was a smart play by Acer to take that away from them. But I'm really curious to see how they're going to draft it from here on out.
Yeah, there's still the potential for We Are Not Prepared to pick up something like an Uther to go for stuns off the back of hooks and stuff like that. But Team Acer, as you mentioned, you know, they have a few choices here now. I feel like they really want to have a front line come out here. Muradin's still doing all right, I feel, in this meta as well.
Muradin is very good. Muradin is actually one of the best tanks at this point. We're having Acer going straight into an Uther here for the heals. Uther is very strong right now. It depends always what kind of heroes you're playing. If we wouldn't see that Illidan ban, then we could have seen another Illidan Rega comp. Rega is just like Illidan's best friend. What Acer needs, as you already said, is a tank. And in this case, it would most likely be Muradin, but there's also the option to go into ETC, who's a bit better this patch, just because a lot of the tanks that we had before got nerfed, Arthur's being one of them. So suddenly ETC, with all this displacement that he has, with the survivability, is not as bad as he was before. He's suddenly on the same level.
And it's going to be Muradin being picked up there for them, so they have quite a lot of CC actually themselves. Off on the side there with those three. Actually, we saw that as a combination in another game, if I recall correctly, during our Tuesday games. So that's been able to transition and transcend on through patches. And then We Are Not Prepared now. Where do they go from here, do you think, Kaldor?
Well, We're Not Prepared. What they need, first of all, they need a healer. They have two options. Well, actually, they have a bit more. We have Cursed Hollow, so Malfurion would actually be a very good choice for them, since they can use the roots to just lock down those corridors, and it's very good for the ground control in these positions. So he's a hero that you see a lot on Cursed Hollow in particular, especially now that Brightwing, of course, lost Rewind on level 13. The same goes for Muradin too. Rewind is now not a 13 talent anymore, but it's a level 20 talent, and that makes a lot of heroes a little bit weaker, Brightwing being one of them.
Yep.
He's still good on a map where you need to have the global presence of Brightwing, but he has fallen off a bit, and that's why I could see Muradin over Brightwing in this case, just because the map plays to Muradin as well. And just I could see something like Kerrigan suffered, since she also doesn't have Rewind anymore. Could maybe see something with a stun, Amelia Assassin. We could see something like a Nuburak, who has the Rewind back on 20. Kerrigan would be another option, even though she doesn't have Rewind anymore. So that would definitely be an option for We Are Not Prepared here.
All right, well, taking their sweet time about it, that's for sure. Going up against a comp like Team Acers that does have quite a lot of stun available to it. You do want to be careful. It's going to be Tyrael, actually. No doubt, to try and get on top of that back line from Team Acer. And what are they going to take as their last pick?
Yeah, the con that well, they need a healer. So
Yeah.
with this, I mean, they still have a couple of options. Rhaegar is good for the burst heal. He has the lightning shield as well. That works kind of for you if you want to have somebody that jumps into the opponent like Tyrael. On the other hand, you have Malfurion. The roots are great on this map. You have also an area effect heal. I would like in Malfurion here, to be absolutely honest. If you are worried about your opponent engaging into you, then Brightwing is still the better choice, though, since he has Emerald Wind that you can use then. So if that's really the problem that you see, that they are going into you and you want to push them away, then you should go for the Brightwing in this case. On this map, you can play several styles here. They have to think about what Acer could pick next and adjust their pick accordingly.
Oh, it's going to be Brightwing. Also, actually, we didn't mention at the beginning of this. I think it may have been mentioned by you yesterday, but Reyna and Lost Vikings are not allowed at the moment.
Yeah, it was mentioned a lot. People were always asking, are they allowed to pick the Vikings? And well, ESL allows Vikings to be picked on Sunday for the Go4Heroes tournament. But Reyna has a bug currently on his E that allows him to get cleanse even without picking up the talent, so he's globally banned.
Yep, so we won't be seeing him or Lost Vikings for a little bit, but as you said on Sunday, Lost Vikings can enter play. Very interesting hero, actually, Kaldor. Very interesting hero, Lost Vikings. I tried and I failed many, many times. So, well, now we're just waiting for Team Acer's last pick. Do you think they need some damage here to just kind of aid them throughout this?
Yeah, they definitely need some damage. With damage, it's an interesting part now, but since Tychus was completely changed, you don't have that second hit point bar with Odin anymore. People are still not quite sure what they are thinking about him. At the beginning, everybody was saying, oh my god, like he's useless right now. But people are liking the new Odin more and more, and actually saying that they enjoy playing him a lot, but you have to completely rethink how to play the hero. And a problem that he still has, while Nazibos, by the way, being picked here, great pick, but finishing that thought real quick, that you still have this build-up time while Tychus jumps into Odin, and that seems to be too long right now, where you don't have the second hit point pool anymore. It was fine in the last patch, because then you had a full hit point bar, but in this one right now, it feels like this is his big weakness then, the transformation status. Nazeebo here, by the way, for the map, great. Cursed Hollow has, of course, the problem that he's up against Tyrael.
Yeah. It is a little bit of a hindrance, that's for sure. And it's interesting the points that are levied against Tychus, like you were mentioning before, because if you recall to how we bans and picks were going in our previous meta, Tychus was very, very heavily contested, and now we just haven't seen him being picked at all. So as you said, these teams really kind of taking a little bit of precaution against that. And I've seen a lot of people on Quick Games and Hero League trying to use Mining Laser, just thinking that Odin's not useful at all. But with the way you can use Odin, potentially with the potential of like Blink later on, Bolt even I should say, I don't think it's gone just yet. I think people will be able to pick it up.
They're just careful. The game is not around for long enough. They had 1 day to prepare. That's like 2 days of scrims when you think about it like this. You get a couple of hours of scrims in. You need to find teams that are on the same level as you so that you get the chance to do that. And therefore, people are just playing, like trying Tychus out before they play him. So yeah, we'll see. By the way, just like mentioning it to you, I'm currently host. So whenever you're ready, we can go.
We can go, man. We can go. All right. So we're getting into game number 1 here of We Are Not Prepared versus Team Acer, and it is going to be on Cursed Hollow. So I'm very interested to see how this is going to go, because again, with the changes that we've had over the past couple of days or so, there is a lot. There is a lot across the board, and those level 20 talents, specifically, for example, like the Nexus Frenzy, as well as what's the other one called? Nexus Blades, there you go. They have had quite a bit of impact already in not only in the qualifier that you were casting, but they change so much about how the hero can be played.
In this case right now, what comes into mind is the Hardened Shield. That is especially important. And let me just confirm with the teams that they're ready again. Acer seems to be ready. Okay.
Okay.
Just so I don't start the game with somebody being AFK and only announcing it in TeamSpeak and not in our lobby. So, okay, there we go. Now, what's really important, as you already pointed out, the new level 20 talents, they're extremely strong. And one of the things that we probably won't see is the Nexus Blades in this case right now. But what we will most likely see on level 20 is Hardened Shield. Muradin can pick Rewind, which is great on 20. That's basically a choice, matter of preference, how the game goes. You can decide that later on.
Yeah.
But with Hardened Shield, you make a hero nearly invulnerable for 4 seconds. He gets a 75% damage reduction, and that is insane. Like, Like, that's crazy, especially for a hero like Tyrell, Muradin. Like, so many of them have access to that talent now. But that talent for Hammer, Nexus Frenzy, that is crazy.
Amazing.
I cannot believe. I personally don't think that Hammer is going to keep that talent, or that the talent is going to stay like this, because it's too strong. He gets into this killing machine mode, and you can't stop him anymore.
Well, I think what you were saying though about tanks having their new level 20 ability, I think it's really cool. I think tanks needed something extra with Resurgence gone. But anyway, let's get into game number 1 now here between We Are Not Prepared and Team Acer.
All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first map, Cursed Hollow, in the best of 3 series at the ESL Masters League here. We are not prepared, going up against Acer, and to the left side of the map in blue, we're having Black Scorp on Tyrael, Kilachino on Tassadar for We Are Not Prepared, Falcon on Vala, Polato on Brightwing, and Tidaka on Stitches. To the right side, it is in red, Acer, with Acer green out on Uther, Cypher on Azebo, Holo is playing Hammer, Exxon on Muradin, and Pawnee is playing Tyrande. I'm Caldo. With me is, of course, once again, Calaris. We're going to bring you the coverage of the ESL Major League.
Alrighty, so we're going to see a little bit of a split off here. We're already actually seeing Tidaka as well as Black Scorp and the fellows move on up to the top, finding green now, and do not land the hook. And that could have been a bit painful for him, but should have been able to get away, I think, with heals.
You can already see the changes that the patch brought with it. Not really the patch, but like that shift in meta that we see a bit. Tyrande is a very valued pick by the teams now, and the build of Tyrande changed a lot. In the old days, it was the build where you just focused on your Owl, you focused really on Sentinel as much as you could. Then we had the switch into a more utility build for Tyrande, where you still picked the piercing talent on level 1, and at this point it's all about the Ranger's Mark. It's all about putting that extra damage on a single target, and that's why we're currently seeing Tyrande on level 1 with that talent already picked up.
Yeah, it's going to be scary if some hooks land, etc. It's all going to be up at the top lane for a while, whilst we have Tassadar Muradin heading off in mid, and Stitches and Hammer down to the bottom here. Actually, Stitches, if he landed a hook and got a good combination off, it could be quite deadly, but it really depends. Hammer should be able to boost out of there and keep himself alive quite nicely.
Yeah, Hammer usually at the beginning is really fine. You can push the opponent away, you have that distance as well. Of course, the slam is quite annoying, can be a problem. But in this case, Tidaka, that hook, I have no idea how he was thinking he could land this one. But yeah, kind of looked funny. Holo is playing this quite well, and at the top lane, we have that double tri-lane for both of the teams now.
Yep. And Falcon just looking for a little bit of an opportunity. Tried to go around the back, but didn't find anything at all. Acer should be able to hold on. They've got quite a bit of sustain here with the Tyrande as well as the Uther. But at the same time, you know, Brightwing will offer ample sustain as well, as it's just playing out a little bit slower at the beginning.
Yeah, Brightwing is a hero that also works very well with Stitches, since his polymorph puts another 25% of extra damage on the talent that you polymorph, and also it lasts longer than an actual stun. So in this case, he's a bit better in that combo than Uther is. Of course, the global presence with a phase shift is quite important on a map like this as well. I could have seen another hero. We've been talking about the option of them going into Malfurion instead to use the entangling routes to control those corridors around the tributes. But in this case, they decided that they want to play it with Polato and Brightwing here, which makes sense. It gives them definitely a lot of map presence, and that can help when the tribute spawns on the other end of the map.
Yeah, we've seen Tassadar in the middle actually doing a pretty good job of pushing out that lane, thanks to Storm, doing well against Muradin and actually getting on top of the towers pretty quickly. But here comes the tribute now, as they're trying to push away Falcon. Doesn't take any damage. Good dodges there so far by him. Green out going for the tribute already.
Yeah, Greener is already moving in, and they're gonna try and delay that for as long as possible. Both of the teams still keep heroes on the mid and the bottom lane for the experience, so it's just the 3 versus 3 at the top. And in this case, I like the position of We Are Not Prepared actually a little bit better. I'm surprised that they didn't try to fight for that more. They have a nice DPS here. They have Black Scorp for the front line and Polato for the healing. I think they could have done more up here. Picking the tribute up like this, I just think it was a bit more of a mistiming than anything else.
Yeah, potentially. Their 3 comp here is pretty well-rounded, gotta say. Oh, we're actually seeing, though, Tyrande now move down towards the bottom here, maybe to look for Tidaka. But It's gonna be difficult unless they get a really good Lunar Flare on top of him when he stretches out a little bit further. Oh, they might get it actually. Oh, no. Gets out.
Yeah, in this case not. Nice hook straight into tower range. I like it. Zidaka with a good move against the Pawnee. Had some free damage that he got in there too. So level 7 now hitting, and we're already seeing the sustain build on Stitches shaping up quite nicely with the Tenderizer now taking level 7 too. It's a double battle momentum again for We Are Not Prepared on Tyrael and Vala. Cleanse on Uther and also on Brightwing. If we're looking at the build that's currently being used from Acer, then we're also seeing besides that healing ward on level 4, once again the True Shot Aura on level 7 instead of battle momentum in this case.
Yeah, those healing wards still provide so much at that second level there. So they should be able to heal up quite a bit when all that goes down. Actually, you know, T-Dark is doing pretty well holding up against Epony and Hollow down at the bottom, but here comes another Trib. It's going to be challenged by Poleto to start things off, but Spider's going to push it back.
Yeah, and we have now Gitbin finally taken by Nazeebo. It took his sweet time to pick up the talent. Oh, that wall of zombies doesn't help them at all to get closer to the tribute, but nice owl by Pawnee gets that in, stuns him out, and delays it even longer. Now good multi shot, but Valken is really running extremely low in mana and needs to back up.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to really fight with this multi-shot build being built up here without that much mana. But still, they're doing well in terms of holding off Acer. Acer had taken quite a bit of damage there. Green now can't heal up everybody, and they will get their own little trip. But at the same time, Hollow going very low down at bot has to boost out there just as Brightwing comes in to try in the pursuit.
Yeah, T-Dark was also running low on mana, so there was a little threat in this case. Once that he got away from Brightwing, who could of course always have polymorphed him. Polato jumping down is more one of those things where you want to go back a Stitches and heal up, but you don't want to lose the experience on lane, so that's where Brightwing can really assist the team by jumping to a lane, allowing a hero to just teleport back at his mana and his hit point pool back up again, and then move in anew. So right now we're having T-Dark actually making a bit of a detour and taking the hard camp together with Kilachino first. And now, with level 10, we are seeing the first heroic abilities, and it is actually for T-Darka, Putrid Bile instead of Gorge, and we're seeing Blink Heal instead of the Emerald Wind.
Interesting little choice. It's going to provide a bit more utility once the fights do come along to cause problems to the enemy line, that's for sure. Tries to go for the hook and actually gets stunned just before that landed on Hollow. I think that would have landed, actually.
That was very, very close indeed. I mean, level 10 versus 10 now, and T-Darka is going to look for another hook. Hook was increased with the cooldown, so it's not as strong as before. It's still pretty darn good, though, and that was one of the few changes that was made to Stitches. Another one is that we're also seeing him with less damage on his Gorge, and that, of course, plays into them playing Putrid Bile right now. Here comes already the Starfall, and Cypher going straight for the Ravenous.
A lot of ults, a lot of heroics being used there, and, well, they haven't taken anyone down just yet. Zona had to get out of there, and there comes the Rain of Vengeance to try and catch out Green out, but Bunny ends up falling, getting himself in a bit of a precarious position. Darker's going to save himself, and Zona has to get out of there.
That's the big problem when you're running Tyrande and you're up against the Stitches. The idea is, of course, to make sure that Tyrande is not on the same team as Stitches, because that's a deadly comp, but you need to make sure that Tyrande is not getting hooked. You usually try to play a comp where you try to run into your opponent, where it doesn't matter too much if that hook lands, but in this case you could really see what a devastating effect this can have when you get a hook against Tyrande. She doesn't have that hit point pool that allows her to stay alive long enough for the rest of the team to catch up and help her out.
Well, they're going to take boss down to the south. Meanwhile, up to the north, Acer have found themselves a little bit of room to try and as well, but we're actually seeing a lot of... I was going to say, challenging that would have been a bit difficult at this time, so just going to take to mid and then probably go straight up to the top to try and challenge that against Acer. They do not want them getting a curse this early.
In the last fight, what you could also see, it looked like a bit of a miscommunication between T-Darka and Nazeebo, because usually you want to set the Starfall in a way that he hits the entire team, and that in order to move away, they need to go back through it since it slows down the opponent. That combos very well with the Nazeebo ult, with the Ravenous Spirit, but that didn't really hit properly. We didn't see that Starfall in a really good position. I'm not quite sure if they communicated that correctly or if T-Darka just missed the Starfall slightly. It did not have a lot of an effect here. Only the initial stars really hit, and then We Are Not Prepared was already outside of the range, could dodge also most of the Ravenous Spirit, so that could have gone better for them, and I think that's what they are going to try to aim for in the next fights.
Yeah, the coordination really has to be there. When you're going up against a team like We Are Not Prepared, as well-versed as they are even, then you've got to be really on top of things. They're actually still present 4 in top of lane here, so they're losing out in terms of a little bit of soak, but they did find themselves some good experience elsewhere before all of this was going on. And looking for Hollow, do not land the hook. A good little juke there from Hollow to get out.
Yeah, and that's a juke that always looks very easy to make, but when you activate your thrusters, you know that they only last for a very limited amount of time, and you kind of get a bit panicky. You don't really want to make that detour because you want to get as far away from your opponent as possible, and in that case, that takes really sometimes quite some balls to do that.
Looking for a fight here again as they're trying to challenge this. Both have 2 of 3 tributes, so whoever grabs this is going to be, well, the opposing team is going to be cursed. Zon taking a bit of damage here at the front from T-Dark. He's going to pop the Avatar, as well as the ult here from Nazebo, but he does get interrupted there by Blackscorp.
Judgment being used, Blackscorp jumped in but dies now as well, and we are also seeing Uther and Muradin going down as Haponi is trying to move away. The healing ward just barely saving his retreat here. They are cursed, we are not prepared, picking up that curse. And it was really interesting to see that Haponi just didn't have that Pierce talent, and that's the reason why he could not interrupt that tribute capture. Because Tidaka blocked the owl with his body, Stitches moved into the way. A really, really nice move that we saw there. And Haponi probably regretting a bit that he didn't take the PS talent, at least in this situation. But nice counter kill against Stitches here.
Yeah, gonna continue on here. Acer trying to get even more kills. Falcon was very low, but Paleta comes in, able to heal him up. And he actually took Ice Block. Didn't expect that. At least he can get out with the Blink Heal, though. So it does synergize pretty well with the idea of Blink Heal in this game.
Yeah, in this particular game, Iceblock really makes sense for him. I love how we saw that counter-aggression now happening from Team Acer. It looked really like with that curse on Acer, we are not prepared, could move in and really start to do damage, but they overextended a bit, didn't really expect Acer to fight for it, and also like dish out this much DPS in just a single second. The burst was immense, and Stitch is the first one to die here. So the curse in itself didn't really do as much as Acer was hoping for.
Yeah, the only thing they really got out of it was the top and bottom lanes pushing pretty hard with a large wave, but it's not too much because they've been cleaned up now, and it gave the opposing team a nice pool of experience to actually leech off once they get back to the top and bottom laning to clean it up. So that was okay. They've caught up in terms of that experience that was previously lost, and well, for now, just going to be easy camp heading up to the north.
Yeah, and right now we're also having double sprint taken. Just as a side note, that was one of the reasons why Vala was very endangered in the last battle, because after that was happened and we saw Vala trying to run away, we had immediately sprint being used and Nazebo tried to take out. But what we need to see right now is really that comp with a good Ravenous Spirit and that Starfall. If they get that off, then they can do a lot of damage to all those heroes that we're seeing, therefore we are not prepared. It's all about the perfect synergy between those heroic abilities.
With the new patch, Zon has his Sledgehammer being able to smash down those mercenaries. It hit them very, very hard. And actually, there's a stun into the Lunar Flare. Doesn't catch too much of it, though. Blackscorp and Falcon do get out of that position.
Yeah, they are able to sync up their talents and they should be able to do a lot of damage. The Stormbolt, as he said, into a Lunar Flare, Starfall behind it, getting the Ravenous Spirit in, maybe even just using a normal zombie wall, that would already do quite a lot. There we have the hook and of course the dodge by Exxon right away, has still that Dwarf Toss available. And they're just rotating on the map. It's 16 talents versus 16 talents. The double blood for blood is going to become very important. The fishing hook that gives you the extra range on the talent is going to be amazing. But here comes once again the hook, and Lunar Flare locks down Stitches. And this is a really good Starfall this time. Where's the Zebo? There he is in the back. And look at that comp. This time they're doing the damage, and this time they're getting that kill.
A lot of damage, but Blackscorp with that jump straight onto Nazebo was able to interrupt nicely. He's going to try and continue at the front lines here, but everyone's very low. They've got to be so careful. The hook onto Hollow to try and bring him down, but it might cost them another death there as they're all so low. They've got to get out of We're Not Prepared.
I'm actually very surprised that Stitches was able to survive there. They got instantly the kill against Brightwing, and then it looked like Stitches would die too. But we saw the Ravenous Spirit cancel out, and apparently nobody else really saw what was happening there, and Stitches just barely got away, got healed up again, and right now we have a 2-for-1 trade between the two teams. But that could have been a lot worse, in my opinion, for We Are Not Prepared. Acer had a very, very good opportunity there to take down more than only one hero. Of course, they were also kind of lucky that such hammer survived.
That's true, that's true. They've got themselves the curse, though. How much are they going to be able to make use of it? They really want to take down a few of these forts, because right now they are very much so behind in that regard. They've actually lost all of their outer forts compared to none here of We Are Not Prepared, who are cleaning up the bottom lane and regrouping down there. So it might be hard for you for Team Acer to get something done during this curse.
Yeah, Acer is focusing now on the bot lane. That means the mid lane is going to start pushing in that fort on its own, and they're of course hoping to win a fight here and then take boss and also the fort itself. The bottom fort should be easily taken. I don't think that We're Not Prepared is even going to fight for that, and they're not really. They're of course trying to rely on the hook again for the initiation, but that's about it already. And here comes Acer. They're trying to go for it right now. Exxon doesn't get the stun. Tidaka is moving out. There comes the Rain of Vengeance immediately being used. A great Starfall that we have, but Cypher is too close. Finally uses his own ult, but in comes Black Scorps pushing him away. And down goes Uther, down goes Sergeant Hammer. Oh my god, they lose Murden as well. They're gonna lose everybody here.
Oh. Picks off T-Darker as well as Tyrael actually falling as well. The judgment was beautiful to displace the position that Acer were in, so they picked up those kills very nicely, and in the end it's still a 4-on-2 trade. So even with T-Darker and Tyrael also falling, it's not too bad. They can make something happen from here, pushing a little bit.
A 5 versus 2 now, and I have to say that the Cypher's position on a Zebo, he is too close to the battle itself. He needs to stay a bit farther back so that it's more difficult for Tyrael to get that judgment in. Every single time he uses his ultimate, there's like 1 or 2 seconds where the Ravenous Spirit can really do damage, but then he's immediately being attacked, and we could really see him hesitate as well for a few seconds because he was saying like, I'm way too much at the front line right now. If I use my ult now, then they will interrupt me immediately. I need to move back a bit. So if he stays just behind a tiny little bit, they can do so much more because that Starfall was close to perfect.
And they were trying to head briefly down to boss, realizing that's where they'd be, but unfortunately their time was ran out in terms of denying that. And we may end up seeing We Are Not Prepared head up towards the boss and try and contest it. Acer realizes that. Going to try and lay in wait for a trap here, potentially.
We Are Not Prepared has all the time in the world now. They have a boss pushing the bottom lane, they can just move in, there is a trap, but as long as... And the hook, of course, they know what's going on. It's not really a big surprise. Their ultimate already used, but Green Out is down, and this is already in for Ace, and they need to move back, and they need to do it back fast. They lose Cypher now as well, or can he survive? Doesn't look like it. Nope. He goes down too, and that Starfall might have been beautiful, but it's not enough to change the tides of the battle. They're going to lose their pony.
A lovely little grab there, and that gives them another boss here. Very little that they can do about contesting this. At least Sergeant Hammer is a really good defense against boss, so slowly they'll be able to chip that one down to the south, but losing their own top boss as well, whilst that lane's pretty heavily pushing, thanks to the wave that's coming in there too. That's going to be a brutal top lane push.
Yeah, and it's also a free tribute. It's another night camp that can be taken. The Bruiser camp is already attacked, so they're losing the entire map presence that they had. And let's not forget about that level 20 talent that we're soon going to see on the board for We Are Not Prepared. They have quite a lot of options here. We are probably going to see the hardened shields on Tyrael. We'll see them on Stitches as well. Most likely, I'd say. Those two are then in team fights nearly unkillable. And all of that is just adding up to what we've been seeing so far. We Are Not Prepared quite dominant in those team battles.
Yeah, really good comp that they have here, actually, considering how well this is going. We have double Hardened Shield, and then actually Bolt of the Storm being taken on Valor. Still just going to prioritize that survivability. I mean, it's a perfect choice here. They know they're in the lead. They know they're doing well in team fights. Why even risk anything other than Bolt of the Storm, just in case you get caught out?
It's also the wrong build. Like, if you really want to take the new level 20 talent on Vala, then you would not go for a multi-shot build. You would go for more of a right-click build where you have either Manticore or at least Searing Attack on level 7. So you need to adjust the build accordingly. And I know that there have been players that have started to experiment with that again just because of that talent, but you give up a lot of survivability if you don't go for Bolt of the Storm. So with the multi-shot build, not really a big surprise that we're seeing Vala not going for the new talent.
Yep, Storm Shield have been taken on Brightwing to kind of just bolster this force even more. And when Tyrael jumps in with Judgment and Hardened Shield, that is going to be so difficult to chew through. So Acer have got to be very careful here. They need their level 20 talents to kick in because it's a big, big game changer.
Yeah, the level 20 talents are going to give them an insane amount of damage, especially with Sergeant Hammer. We touched upon that earlier. If you go for Nexus Frenzy, you get 20% extra range and 25% attack speed, which is, of course, for Sergeant Hammer in Siege mode, crazy good. The one thing that doesn't really work with that, though, is that we see Stone Skin taken on level 16 instead of the Hovering Siege mode. Hovering Siege mode works way better with the level 20 talent that you have now, so you are in a bit of a pickle there if you go for Stone Skin. It gives you survivability that you desperately need in this case, of course, against Initiation with Stitch's hook and Judgment on Tyrael, but still, you would really like to have that mobility on Hammer so that you can follow the opponent's team and really get that damage.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's more of a reactionary choice, I guess, in this game, considering how up against the wall they have been in these team fights and haven't really established themselves some good position on the map. But now they're going to lay waste to this first keep. And they're going to have a hard time really dealing with this. Although Darker takes a lot of damage to start things off.
Yep, the Darker takes a lot of damage, but the Starfall is now out as well. Avatar is down, so 2 of the heroic abilities are already out. They just needed to move back, and all of the heroic abilities for We Are Not Prepared are still up. So they can still utilize those. They can still move in and use them in the fight. They're just waiting out until Avatar Nexon is over. They know that Starfall is not an issue anymore. And even with the level 20 talent, this is going to become an interesting battle right now. Because there we go, stun already started. Here comes the Ravenous Spirit, and down goes Tyke and Tassadar immediately. And they're trying to kill out the next one. Polado with the Ice Block being used here. We're seeing Uther dying, but Brightwing is extremely low as well.
Good reposition there by Stitches so that Polado can blink out with the blink heal, but does end up falling. And Zan actually also going to fall. Nice little jump out there from Blackscop to keep himself alive, but the Owl was in pursuit. And I think they may be able to pick this up. Ah, no, it's going to be too little too late. It's very, very hard to catch up with him at that point.
Stitches is already over here, and, well, he's moving back, so they are going to get that tribute. But as you could already see, the level 20 talent now we have, as expected, not only the Nexus Frenzy on Sergeant Hammer, but it is a double rewind. We are seeing it on Tyrande, because there's just no better option in this case, and on Muradin. You could go for the Hard Shield on Muradin. Oh my god, that dodge by Vala, but then taken out, and now that kill against Stitches. That was really unfortunate for We Are Not Prepared, and they need to be careful that they don't lose too much here.
Yeah, they do. I mean, we saw in practice there that level 20 talent on Sergeant Hammer and how much it was able to do. Even outside of Siege mode, it's still dishing out a huge amount of damage. So that's a very, very scary thing to go up here against for We Are Not Prepared, who are going to lose a boss. It's going to be difficult to hold on to, but Kilachino's coming in with Blackscop to try and help out. Here comes Brightwing as well, teleporting in and helping out, killing a pony. And actually, they're going to be able to clean up. Oh my god!
Did you see why that happened? They stood in the boss route and 2 heroes were rooted. That's why Cypher and a pony lost this much damage on the tank. That's the only reason why that just worked.
Oh.
It would have been such a... I couldn't believe when they moved in. I was really thinking, oh my god, they risk it, because that was a high-risk, high-reward play. If that backfires, then once again, you have 2 heroes coming up with Vala and Stitches, but you will have 1 or 2 down. And in that case, they got a kill, and then they could even proceed to get the second one, because Acer didn't dodge the boss route.
Yeah, brutal stuff, and that's how the cookie crumbles. Unfortunately, you're going to take this boss as well, and giving up this extra boss, whilst one's just pushing straight onto the core. They have no option but to try and shut that down. They're going to lose another trip. They're going to be cursed. They're going to lose hard camp off the back of this boss as well. If We Are Not Prepared really want it, they are rolling away with this game.
That boss is doing so much damage. By the way, talking about the root of the boss, that is only indicated with a purple indicator, which is very difficult to see at times. If you change your game to colorblind mode, then it's apparently a bright red that is being used there, or at least it's a different color that is much more noticeable. I've heard players talking about that just recently, so that might be something that you want to try and toy around with if you have problems with like identifying that yourself.
It's almost the target there that got hooked to start things off, and he was tanking a lot with Avatar as he does pop that now. Blackscott jumping straight on top of Nazebo, trying to go for the interrupt. Pony taking a bit of damage, but Zon at the front still holding on strong, jumps out, and Pilates is just going to pop his ice block to keep him alive.
Yeah, and Tank doing the entire time so much damage. Holo is on his job, and we have the first one down. It's Brightwing, but Exxon on Muradin, he dies, and Blackscorp just barely staying alive there, using the Hardened Shield and the Storm in the last second, dropping Tyrande now as well. Cypher is slowed by Falcon. He vaults and takes down his opponent, and this is game as the boss just moves in, takes the core, and game number 1 ends in favor of We Are Not Prepared.
Brutal situation there for Team Acer, who kind of had to end that team fight really, really fast because that boss was pushing, so it was like a do-or-die situation, and in the end, that was not to be the case. So, well played there by We Are Not Prepared in game number 1. They did get their stitches off the back of having the first ban, first pick situation, and now going into game 2, we will see the reverse situation of that. So will Team Acer be able to exploit that in the new meta? We'll find out in a bit.
I was really surprised with that route that happened. That, as I said, like, We Are Not Prepared was apparently very determined to make sure that they could get that fight. So it was a 3 versus 3, and with the heroes that we saw, that could have backfired extreme. Wasn't it even 3 versus 2? I think it was a 3 versus 2, right?
Yeah, I think it was.
They jumped in.
Brightwing came in at the very end to help out, but it was for the most part a 3v2.
So they jumped into that, and if they lose a hero or two there, it will snowball completely. Because what's going to happen is that Acer takes not only one boss, but they take 2 at that part of the game. They are already extremely strong, so they start moving in, doing the damage. They have Siege Tank behind them with the Nexus Frenzy. And in this case, that route screwed them up completely. And I'm wondering if they didn't see because of the color, or if they were just so focused on where the heroes jumped in that they didn't see that they were rooted. And that double route, I feel, cost them the fight.
Yeah, definitely. It did so much damage, and in the end, unfortunately for them, that was their one linchpin to try and get back into the game. We saw, after being able to push them away on that team fight on their doorstep, the first movement out into the map for so long during that game. So, unfortunately for Team Acer, they do fall in that first game. We are waiting for our map to be chosen. Ban Mines and then go Dragonshire. So we can go with the heroes. Okay, so we can actually, hopefully, once everyone's ready, it looks like Team Acer is ready, we can get into our next map very quickly, and it's going to be Dragonshire. The Dragon Knight has been nerfed, if I recall. Like a little bit of health has been reduced or something like that. Do you recall?
No, actually, I have not seen that change.
Is that not the case? When I was playing, it really felt like it didn't have as much health, but well, maybe
I missed something. But as far as I know, not a single one of the maps was changed because I expected a change on Sky Temple.
Ah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Let's not take that as gospel. Let's double check that later on because it could be my imagination completely. So anyway, we can jump into the bans and picks here for game number 2, as Zeratul is going to be banned for Team Acer, and they didn't go for the idea of banning something a little bit more different. Yeah,
no bullshit ban by them. Well, but on the other hand, you know, if maybe they don't have a player on their lineup that really is very, likes to play Zeratul, or they just don't want to play a comp with him, so they ban him out because you don't, as we said it in the last game, you don't want to give Zeratul to We Are Not Prepared. That's just not going to happen. Black Scorp, it's his favorite hero, it's his best hero, and it's a deadly tool. We Are Not Prepared now with the ban on Stitches, so it's that traditional ban system that we have with the Zeratul and Stitches banned out. Acer can now either prioritize something like a Sergeant Hammer. Very, very good first pick now. On the other hand, we have, well, actually quite a lot of options. These are those things that we didn't see too much just yet in the new patch.
Yep, just waiting now for this to come out. I mean, considering how quickly they picked up Sergeant Hammer in the previous game, I would lean towards that as well. I think that's a pretty good pickup for them. We saw, again, when it kicks in at level 20, very, very scary to actually deal with, but unfortunately they got caught off a little bit around that boss, and that was the end of that, but they still did a lot of damage with it.
There are some other choice that you have too. Illidan suddenly is much more popular because he also gets so insanely strong on level 20. Tyrande is getting a lot of attention because of the Hunter's Mark, especially when you can grab it together with the Stitches, but even if that's not the case, Tyrande is very, very good when you keep isolated a bit. So that's by some teams that was a first pick already. And that opens up a lot of possibilities, and it's very difficult to know what you're actually going for. Sergeant Hammer is a great pick on this map in particular, but it depends on your long-term strategy. I'm really surprised that we're seeing. I am wondering. Okay, it didn't bug out, but like things like this are pretty unbelievable to me. You have the standard ban, and it takes them more than a minute to go for the first pick here, which is in this case Vala.
It's going to be Tassadar on the other side for We Are Not Prepared.
Tassadar Hammer, I'd say.
Tassadar Hammer, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's a good choice there. So they're going to go for that. So strong, so strong. Tassadar, likewise. I mean, he's been able to stand the test of time for quite a while here, so choice.
Yeah, he fell off when Healing Ward got nerfed, and he himself had a lot of changes, especially his Archon got nerfed. Well, I think it was 2 patches back. And then when Blizzard just made Healing Ward stronger, he came back into the meta stronger than ever. And right now, with all the changes that we had to other heroes, he is really a great support for your team. Team Acer now, I mean, what they are looking at is they still have the options of picking a couple of heroes, like something like Tyrande, if they want to go for it. Yeah, for them, I am personally very curious to see what's going to be second DPS, because we have Tychus completely reworked, we have Reyna globally banned because of the bug on E, so it limits your pool. And therefore, I want to really see what Acer is going to try and play in this game. If they're going to go for something like Nazebo again, which didn't really work out for them in the last game, or if they go down a different path. We had very multiple approaches yesterday in the qualification tournament.
Yeah, it's going to be Tyrande and then into Brightwing as well. But you raised a good point there about who is actually going to go for extra DPS here earlier on. That's something that I'm thinking is going to be quite heavily contested, because I think Nazebo for me on Dragonshire is a great pick. I think he's brilliant on a map like Dragonshire, because there are a few nooks and crannies that do work very well with his zombie wall, etc., to catch people out. So you've got to be careful about that. What do you think we are not prepared are going to go for here? They need a good front line, I feel.
I think Tyrael is once again going to be one of their choices. Tidaka loves Tyrael. It's a great hero also if you have a Tacita on your team to keep him alive. So I know that they've been playing with Tyrael for a long time, and they probably are going to try to do the same thing. He could go into Muradin as well, which is another hero that he likes to play. For Acer, I mean, I kind of called the Tyrande pick that I was seeing that. It's important that you get that. Brightwing gives you once again the opportunity to help out at the top and the bottom shrine, just like jumping between the two of them, even though that phase shift was also affected by the last patch. But right now, for We Are Not Prepared, I mean, this is what they have already with Tacita, Tank, and Uther is already solid. So it's a very solid lineup. I think we could even see them going into a double frontliner with this if they're trying to go for something like Muradin and Tyrael. You could always question if that has enough damage, but then there's Tyrael already. If you have Sergeant Hammer and you have Storm and Archon, you can play that.
Yeah, Tyrael suffered a little bit at the hands of the patch, Cast Aside not being there anymore, and I think a little bit of his damage was reduced, or was it, correct me if I'm wrong, Tyrael?
Tyrael lost Cast Aside. I don't know if they changed the damage as well.
Okay, again,
Cast Aside was the big. I think it was only Cast Aside.
Yeah, okay. But on the other side again, Team Acer here, they really want themselves a frontliner. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Muradin. It syncs up nicely with the idea of Tyrande. We already saw that with Wellmet running that little composition very, very nicely. The stuns into Hunter's Mark can cause huge problems for a hero if they do get hit in that combo.
I personally think that We Are Not Prepared is going to go for Illidan as a last pick.
Okay.
And therefore, I like Illidan, or at least the melee assassin. And I think Acer knows that too. Illidan is extremely strong. They could go also in something like Kerrigan if they wanted to go for that. But I think Illidan is would be a very good choice here. So right now, Acer needs to think about that. Muradin is kind of a bit of a given if you don't want to experiment too much, since he's still very strong, even though the 13 got taken away. They still need some DPS though. And as you already pointed out, Nazebo is one of the choices that they have here. It's a good map, but I just have to admit that Lazebo didn't really impress me on the last map. And Cursed Hall is even better than Dragonshire for them.
Especially with how Black Scott was able to lock it down every single time with Tyrael. Judgment, never really giving too much room for Nazebo to breathe. Sonya... Okay.
Yeah, that's also good. Sonya actually, like, you seem surprised.
Well, yeah, I mean, it did get, of course she got a buff, and that's cool. My producer's very happy now, by the way. He's a master skin Sonya, so...
Oh, me too.
No, fair play. But yeah, the buffs, I haven't really seen them in full effect yet, so I'm very excited for this.
Sonya has played a bit like Illidan right now. She is a hero that can, especially on level 20, then benefit from the hardened shield. So I guess it's surprising to quite a lot of people, because Sonya was basically considered trash in the last patches. But in this one, she starts a comeback. A lot of teams have already been talking about it, and a lot of teams have scrimmed with her. She can be very strong. And interestingly enough, both ultimates are currently being used on her, Berserker and Leap. And We Are Not Prepared. I expected them to go for Illidan, but they might want to, maybe they reconsider here, I don't know. But Illidan works great with what they have. It's a good jumper comp. You have 2 heroes that can jump in. You have Burst Heal on Uther. You also have Tassadar for shield. Tassadar can hit the storms in. Illidan has a good level 20 now, as does, of course, also Tidaka's Tyrael. And they are looking for a hero for Black Scorp. And Black Scorp loves all things melee.
Well, we're just waiting now to figure out who that is going to be. But I mean, even Uther has the protective shield as well if he's going to pick that talent up. So there's a lot available to him. It's going to be the Illidan. So well called, Kaldor, for our final pick there. And as you were mentioning, you know, it's going to synergize well with the ability to jump in, etc.
Yeah, this is a pretty cool comp that they are running now. I personally have seen only a few games with Sonya. I really want to see how much her changes come into effect now. Just the way that Fury works has been completely reworked on her. That's the biggest thing. And also she was like put back to a level or to a status that where she was before, like a couple of patches back. She does a bit more damage, and level 20 talent helps with her survivability a lot. And that was always one of the big downsides in Sonya. It was always this jump and pray. You leap in and you hit your stone skin, you hit your heals on level 7 if you go for that, and you just pray that nothing happens and then you somehow get out of there. And by now, she has an option to get away at that point. So that makes her a hero that can be played again. The damage that she has is also decent. I'm very interested to see if they are going to play Leap with this or if they are just going for Berserker here, because you can do both.
Yeah, the Berserker does pump out a lot of damage, especially if you find your enemies clumped up and you do get a good whirlwind off whilst all of that is going on. But for the most part, we see very, very good coordination, especially from teams like We Are Not Prepared, who are going to be split very nicely when going into these engagements, especially now considering that they're going to be facing up against a Sonya. So do you have a lobby yet, or are we just waiting to get one in?
Lobby just came up just a second
okay,
ago.
fantastic. Alrighty.
Like with Sonya, it's usually the thinking either you want Sonya to do more damage or you want the rest of your team to do more damage. And in this case, I could see Berserker because the only damage dealer that they have is really Vala. Well, I guess that's a bit unfair to Tyrande. She does damage, but she doesn't do as much persistent damage. She has that burst with Sentinel that she can use and also the Lunar Flare. But besides that, she's a bit lacking on that side. So yeah, the extra stun would probably help them to lock down Sergeant Hammer if they get a good stun comp off. They have a lot of CC here and there, with if you consider spear, stun, and all of that. So yeah, Sonya is, by the way, a really fun character to play. It was always said that she was so late, so weak, but she is super fun to play. Very, very enjoyable hero.
Yeah, I like the utilization of Ancient Spear and being able to pick on people very, very hard if you're actually able to lock them down and stuff. It's been good fun. And then they also changed the color of the bar, just so people know out there. So
I mean, the build on Sonya is most likely going to be like Shot of Fury in level 1, then on level 4 you get the extra damage on the slam. Level 7, that's still where you have a lot of discussion going on. I personally prefer to have the sustain with the ferocious healing, but you can also go for the area of effect damage on slam. I personally don't like that too much. If it's really more about the damage, then even the damage on spear is a bit more attractive to me. But these days it's more about survivability for her, so I guess ferocious healing it's probably going to be for a Pawnee. I would expect Berserker on level 10 taken, level 13 most likely going to be Spell Shield, and on level 16 then Stone Skin, and on 20 Hardened Shield. And then you have a very, very solid and well-rounded hero here that you can use. So it's going to be a fun game for sure.
do you think we're going to see We Are Not Prepared's Hammer being a little bit more free in this game compared to the previous game? Do you think that We Are Not Prepared's team comp, as it stands here, is going to be able to protect the Hammer a whole lot more than what we saw from Team Acer in the previous game?
I actually think so, to be honest with you, because very simple reason. If you play a comp like we are seeing for We Are Not Prepared, the whole idea is to jump your opponent, not the other way around. And your opponent will have to deal with Tyrael and with Illidan, just like going ham on the back line. And they will try to deal with that. And Hammer should be that guy just like sits in the back, nobody cares about him, because he's just like, say, all right, well, you guys are keeping them busy, I'm going to dish out the damage. And that's the idea behind what they are playing right now. And in the middle between the two, then you have always Uther and Tassadar who just like, look, okay, who needs help?
Yeah.
So even if there's counter aggression with the leap onto Hammer, there should be a quick shield by Tassadar and then also Shrink Ray starting with level 13, and that should help a lot.
Well, I'm excited to get into game number 2 here. It's all the players are almost ready to jump into Dragonshire for our second game. We Are Not Prepared are currently 1-0 up in this series. Don't forget that after this series, we have another one coming up, which will be El Nexo versus Fnatic, our newcomers to Major League as of yesterday. So loading up onto Dragonshire. Any preferences here, Kaldor, regarding the lineups and regarding the potential success?
I don't know yet how Sonia is going to come into play. Without her, I would have given the advantage definitely to We Are Not Prepared. I think the Spanish team has the better position here, but I am also not as experienced in the new patch with Sonia as I would want to be. So maybe we see a surprise, but I would give We Are Not Prepared an edge.
All right, let's get into it then. Game number 2 between We Are Not Prepared and Team Acer.
All right, welcome everybody to the second game. We are on Dragonshire in our second game in the best of 3 series between We Are Not Prepared and, of course, their opponents, Team Acer. The 1-0 lead for We Are Not Prepared. They need to win another map to close it out today, but Acer has other plans. Cypher on the left side in blue for the team is playing Tyrande. We have Vala played by Holo, green out on Brightwing, a Pawnee playing Sonia here, and Exxon on Murden. To the right side in red, it is Falcon on Sergeant Hammer, Polato and Uther, Blackscorp on Illidan, Tidaka on Tyrael, and Kilachino on Tassadam. Kaldor, with me is Kilaris. We're going to bring you the second game of the ESL Major League.
The funny thing is that the little owl that got sent out there really didn't give them much information at all. Everything was evaded by Kilachino, as well as Tyrael. Tyrael might have shown just at the very end there, but Oracle is going to be able to scout out the rest of what's going on in the mid, so Kilachino should be safe and dandy.
And we're having some very interesting things already happening. So first of all, Sonia goes for Shot of Fury on level 1 as predicted. On level 4, we're going to see the increased damage of Slam, and on 7, you have a few choices there. With the Pawnee playing her, I still expect Berserker on level 10 to be taken. She is definitely a lot stronger and has her place in the meta now. But what is more important or more interesting is that we are having on Vala a build that indicates that we're going to see Manticore on level 4 and then potentially Searing Arrow on level 7. So more of a right-click build. And with a new level 20 talent that you have in the game now, that would be exactly the build that you would choose to go into Frenzy later on, into that extra damage and attack range instead of using Blink. So they're going for more of a single target DPS build right now, unless Vala decides to go for some kind of hybrid build, which we've seen in the past.
Yep.
And the next talent is probably going to reveal that.
I'm really excited to see how well this is going to work out for Vala if she is going to go for like a full right-click build, because long story short, I really like Vala, and I really would like to see the auto-attack build actually come back into play. But T-Dark are actually jumping straight in there, trying to block in green out, but doesn't get it just yet. They've captured the shrine. They're going to keep it contested. And, well, we're seeing the Acer lineup being more healthy here, so might be a little bit difficult for T-Dark to continue on that position.
Yeah, Acer is currently a good position in the game. The question is how this is going to play when they are level 20, level 10 and then also 20, of course. But level 10 is going to be the first big change here. An attempt to grab the Dragonite in the middle already in vain, since we have Blackstar jumping in. Yeah, he's getting it again, but then needs to jump away. Very well done, but they might get Dragonite here. It's an early one, so it's not too bad, but that should be Dragonite for them.
Good deny by Uther, and Holo, actually just being able to hold on at the bottom shrine just barely against 2 to keep that Dragon Knight in check. So really, really well captured there by Team Acer.
Yeah, what I really want to see, as mentioned earlier, is the level 10. Just because what you should see with the composition that We Are Not Prepared is playing here is them jumping into the opponent's backline and trying to take them down. And then Falcon should have a lot of space to really get his damage in with Sergeant Hammer. So far, of course, in this early game, it looks like Acer has the better combo for the early stages. And especially also Sonia is playing a big role there. She can be very, very annoying in the early game with the spear and also the blow, healing herself up with her whirlwind over and over again. Pawnee is utilizing that and has also taken the extra damage on Slam, as already suggested. We also have Manticore taken on level 4 now by Vala. So that right-click build that we've been talking about seems to become a reality here. Searing Arrow on level 7 would be a good choice. We see sometimes still something like Battle Momentum taken to go into the additional ultimates, but usually with a build like this, especially when you're working towards the new level 20 talent, I would expect Searing Arrows taken.
And Blackscorp jumping up to level 6 means he can start soloing these camps, which is very, very nice to get things rolling up to the top. But a nice pickup there by Team Acer to get the easy camp on their opponent's side of the map. But at least Falcon's well aware, pushes them into tower range and should be able to clean that up quickly.
We have not Searing Arrow taken by Vala. It is instead Repeating Arrow. So also an interesting one. And I guess it's kind of, when you think about it, what did we say is the big problem when you don't go for Bolt of the Storm on level 20? You lose mobility and you run the risk of being caught out of guard, out of position, and then just being taken out. If you go for the Repeating Arrow, you kind of make up for that a bit, as long as you pick Hungering Arrow on level 1, because you get twice the amount of healing in. So I feel this is a neat compromise that was, especially only taken because of that downside of taking the new level 20 talent. Nice fight here also at the hard camp, by the way.
Yeah, very eager to try and steal that away, but in the end they don't manage to. They have to get on out. We're seeing Kilachino come in and try and reinforce this position a little bit. T-Dark gets locked down by the Lunar Flare, will get that pickup on that kill. Very, very nice little turnaround there for Team Ace, as that was trying to be stolen away from them.
Yeah, they are doing really well in the early stages of the game here, and I like all that theory crafting that we're having now with Acer, showing us quite a good time there and really working towards those builds. I like that a lot. Ferocious healing on Sonya level 7 helps you a lot to keep her alive, and that is of course one of the main goals here. We are still not on level 10, but that advantage that Acer is building up is great. They are nearly a level ahead against their opponent. They will head to that level 10 way faster. Looking at the builds that we are seeing for We Are Not Prepared, it's pretty much the standard that you would expect, especially when we're looking at Sergeant Hammer and Illidan. Standard builds for them. Not really a lot of deviation potential. So right now, everything's still norm for them, which is strong, which is very strong, but they need the level 10 for that.
Yeah, they're looking to take it in. Well, we're seeing Acer now pick up theirs. There's going to be Avatar, Wrath of the Berserker, Reign of Vengeance gets picked up, as well as Starfall. And if things get locked down in that Reign of Vengeance, whilst Wrath of the Berserker actually comes out for the team, it's going to be very, very tough for them to deal with.
Wrath of the Berserker makes with that composition a lot of sense, since we've been talking about it already earlier. If you go for Leap, you kind of want the rest of your team to do a lot of damage. If you go for Wrath of Berserker, you yourself want to dish out more damage. And as they are only having one single DPS hero besides her, not accounting for Tyrannus for a second, it makes sense to go for that heroic ability. Sypho picks up another Dragon Knight. That's the second one for Acer and moves straight into the mid lane. So this is the second one that We Are Not Prepared has lost here. They have their level 10 talent finally, but they are losing some ground in this game.
Yeah, good little lockdown actually by Acer around the entirety of that Dragon Knight, with Sonya being able to cover the north position, pushing Politer away there. And now they are under a lot of pressure. Falcon's holding on from the back lines here behind this fort, but they only have the 4 here, defending against the 4 with that fight going up against Sonya and Tyrael. So Acer playing it slow, going to try and head up to the top maybe to do a little bit of damage to the wall here along with Sonya.
So far we had a lot of small scrimmages in the game, and we didn't really have those team fights that we've been waiting for, and I feel this is the strength that We Are Not Prepared has. Just go for those team fights with a 5-on-5. We have Brightwing actually jumping to the top lane and turning this fight into a 4 versus 5 against We Are Not Prepared. So they need to be extremely careful, but if they can hold on to that fort, Sergeant Hammer at the bot lane could do a lot of damage, and Falcon is already in siege mode and using his napalm to push in the next tower.
Yeah, very eager to try and get something done elsewhere here. We Are Not Prepared. It's a cool move. As long as they're not going to get engaged onto at the north, it's a cool move, and it looks like Acer's not ballsy enough to really jump straight onto their opponents, which is going to pay a little bit of dividends here for We Are Not Prepared.
I'm wondering why Brightwing jumped up to the top lane. There seems to be no reason to do that. There was no engagement, there was no fight, there was no situation where you would say, okay, buddy, we need you here right now, we need the heal. They did not go into the fort either to force that, so him moving back cost them a lot of experience. It didn't gain them anything.
Well, Bunny is Bunny is even just gonna go for that hard camp down to the south. Quite a lot of pressure being put on here in this lane as well in the south, which means that it does allow Sonya to just take that camp completely freely. Very difficult for We Are Not Prepared to even sense that is going on, never mind actually be able to deal with it.
Yeah, Sonya is, together with Illidan, one of the best characters to take camp solo. We're having now also on level 11 Aftershock, or level 13 Aftershock being used for her. Instead of the spell shield. Doesn't really need spell shield with that comp here. Once again, another fort goes down. 13 versus 13 now, though. And the shield build for Tyrael. We actually see shield taken on 7 sometimes as well now with a new build, as you don't have cast aside on level 13 anymore.
And they're going to try and put on some pressure here at this wall once again. Falcon does get hit by Lunar Flare, but it's not going to be too much at all. With that wall still up, it means that Falcon can do a lot and push that back, trying to get that healing totem down, and they will be able to push them away for now.
Yeah, Black Scorp is moving in now, and we could still see that initiation with Judgment. Here comes the first stun, and they're jumping in again. Starfall being used already, and also the Reign of Vengeance. Down goes Holo. No, they save him with another Blink heal. He's just barely saved, but it is Mirrodin that dies here, and they are jumping in. That's exactly what we've been talking about earlier. Just this potential to jump into opponent's backline while the Sergeant Hammer does his damage. Sypho is very low, but Black Scorp has to turn around and retreat.
Yeah, the way they orchestrated that fight was very cool. You could see how much focus they were putting on Shrink Ray onto the Sonya, so that she just wasn't able to do anything at the front line there. So really good lockdown there by We Are Not Prepared. And now they might even get themselves a Dragon Knight out of this. It's going to be difficult with Zofa there, though, to poke away.
Yeah, once again, they're trying to just like stun that out for now. Cypher is being attacked immediately, but it's a 5 versus 5 on the map at least again, so they can contest that. Cypher, nice by Blackscorp. Very nice body block, even with that healing ward that she placed down. That was just no way to escape there. Blackscorp with a very good kill and turns it again into a 4 versus 5 on the map.
Yeah, really well played in terms of abilities used. Paleta is going to deny Zon from actually getting this Dragon Knight as the shrines were turned around, and Kilachino is actually very, well, just going to die. There was nothing that much that was going to save him up to naught.
Yeah, they didn't stand a chance there. Pony played that very well with another Ancient Spear, throwing that in. We're having 4 heroes now moving straight into the middle again. And the experience is the same. It's 15 versus 15. Level 20 is something that interests me a lot, because I'm still wondering which team is going to have the better level 20. I have not seen the new talent on Vala yet. We are most likely going to see, I guess we're going to see Tyrande with another Rewind. We will see Sonya with a Hardened Shield and Muradin probably with a Rewind too. But that extra damage that we're getting out of Illidan and Sergeant Hammer for We Are Not Prepared is going to be absolutely amazing. And also, of course, that slow on Illidan is going to make it very, very difficult for a target to get away.
And whilst they're capturing top shrine, they're probably going to lose the bottom one, our team Acer. So it's just going blow for blow, trade for trade. It's a very close game right now. I'm very, very impressed by this. A small stun goes on to Pony. Fast to get him out of there. Lunar Flare is going to stop Falcon doing much for just a little bit. But all 5 are now present in mid. So Acer have got to be careful about how they're moving. They see a lot of it with the Owl as it moves forwards.
Yep. Thunderstrike, by the way, taken up by Muradin here on level 13. Now that he doesn't have Rewind anymore, now that Rewind is a level 20 skill, there's a lot of sense for him to go for that. Helps out with another Stormbolt, taking the Mercenaries, because that was another change in the patch, that Stormbolt does now extra damage against Mercenaries too, not only against structures. You pointed it out in the first game already. We have double Blood for Blood also on the side of We Are Not Prepared. That helps a lot dropping a tank or Sonya, so that's something that they can utilize. And they're putting pressure now at the top lane, and that will force, that should force actually Acer to move back, but apparently they're trying to outpush them against a tank. Like, I don't know.
They can try. This is going to be interesting how this plays out. At least they've got a few siege minions with them to actually help out and aid in this push forwards, but both of them are going to lose top and bottom keep. And I think with Sergeant Hammer, they have enough power to do more in terms of the push once it comes along. But that being said, Acer's doing very fast.
They're faster, yeah. They have siege giants as well. Pawn is moving back a bit. Yeah, they're just barely. Tidaka has to jump in to take down the keep at the top. So they had to go back. But yeah, they just realized that with those 2 siege giant, it was a very, very different scenario. So they moved back, and it's a keep for a keep. So nothing gained, nothing lost.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right, as long as you're able to keep an eye on exactly how well that's going to be pushing forwards later on in the game. Because that Owl's revealed in quite a lot of the position there of We Are Not Prepared. So they're going to move away from mid. They know that's going to be contested pretty heavily. Despite the opportunity to try and get Dragon Knight, it'll be difficult to bring it into their grasp just yet.
Nice experience lead, by the way, that we're having for We Are Not Prepared. But as you mentioned, the Dragon Knight, once again, Pawn is moving in. But good. Tidaka is in a good spot, just in time for that. Pawn is already moving in here. The Zerg is being used, is starting to move in. The counter initiation, immediate. And of course, once again, we're having that Shrink Ray Starfall, a very nice position. And also, Vala with her ultimate going for the Rain of Vengeance. But Sonya is already down, and Vala is looking, she's looking at another death here since Blackscorp jumps in on Illidan immediately, and he's not done with Vala. He goes for the rest of the team.
Oh, the Metamorphosis did so much work, and he was able to keep himself for so long alive. There was Illidan, even jumping onto Zon. He's isolated. He's going to end up falling as well, and that's another fork going down here at the bottom if they really want it. But looks like they're just going to move back for a little bit and try and look for top shrine. Try and get that Dragon Knight on the field, because they can get much more done with that.
Yeah, they're going to go for that. And with 3 heroes down for Acer, they should be able to get that. And of course, keep in mind that we are looking at the second game here. This is not game number 1. We have the 1-0 lead for We Are Not Prepared already. And if they take down Acer on Dragonshire, then they would have won their match with a 2-0 in the series. On the first play day, they struggled. They lost against Alternate, but Alternate dropped out of the league, so the match doesn't even count. That would be the first victory for We Are Not Prepared and a stellar record in the ESL Major League.
Yeah, a really nice start, in essence, to their campaign here. As they're going to push on through mid now, doing a lot of damage to this wall. This fort is almost certainly sacrificed. Muradin's only just got back up to try and get into the fight at the front. T-Darker is really piling on the pressure. Here comes Acer, though, to try and rally back against it.
Yeah, first one fort goes down, so the first one's actually the second one for them to kill. And going for the punts as well. The Super Bowl is over, but it's always time for a good punt, and Exxon was just like kicked out of there. And they go straight for the wall. It's a 14-minute Dragon Knight, and that does quite some damage. That extra damage on structures is really noticeable. Here comes another Starfall being used already by Tyrande. Doesn't really hit a lot, doesn't add a lot to the team. Slows them down maybe a bit, but that's about it. Exxon is jumping in on his Muradin, and they are in trouble. Falcon, on the other hand, is initiated upon an Pony with the Ancient Spear coming from the right side and dropping in the DPS.
Yeah, able to pick him up. Puni's taking a lot of damage, though. Dragon Knight's whacking away at him as well. Does get out of there, despite having been locked down just a little bit during all of those fighting, but I don't think that they can continue to fight anymore. It's going to be very, very difficult now with Muradin coming in from the side as well.
It was a very, very smart move by a Pony to come in from the right side. That's something that they just didn't expect. Oh, but the counter-aggression against Green Out. They turn things around, they drop Green Out. Exo just barely jumps over the wall there, and the rest of the team is running away, but a Pony is still in trouble.
Yeah, and let's not forget here, we're still seeing Metamorphosis. Actually, is it on cooldown? It is on cooldown. It's just the sidebar that's tricking me out. So, not opportunity to really use that anymore, as the bottom lane has just been stabilized, and it's going to be able to eventually keep going here for Acer. But the turnaround was nice. I'm surprised they got kills on that turnaround. That was very, very important. They certainly didn't want to be chased all the way back to their forts.
It's interesting how dangerous Sonya is now, because when the turnaround happened, you could really see that Pony at some point just said, all right, I'm dead, but I'm going to try and take Tassadar with me. And he nearly got Tassadar. Like, Sonya was suddenly going ham, and you could really just suddenly see the sweat on Tassadar's face as he realized that he might die.
Yeah, managed to help on out, and then unfortunately Sonya ends up falling, but you're right, she a little bit more scary, especially if you're going to find angles like that for the Ancient Spear to connect and get you right into the middle of that fight and cause problems very quickly.
Wow. Do you see those level 20 talents?
What do we have?
We have actually advanced Lava Strike for Sergeant Hammer. I can't believe that. That new level 20 talent is so insanely strong. And also for Illidan, we have Demonic Form taken. The new talent gives you 20% additional damage and slows the target down, so it's great when you chase. I'm very surprised to see those two. I understand more so on Illidan than I do on Sergeant Hammer. I guess on Hammer, well, Lava Strike is great, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it is.
But the new talent, 25% faster attack rate, and then also in addition to that, the bigger range. Wow, I'm very surprised that they did not take that.
Still the taking of Stone Skin at level 16 as well, though, compared at the same time as what we saw over on Team Acer. So this is, you know, they're looking for a little bit more sustain and keeping their hammer alive here against this kind of composition. But whoa, Paleta, you don't want to be down there. Punny is going to jump on top of him, and, well, Paleta actually just evaporated.
Yeah, goes for his heroic ability to allow the rest of his team to get away. But yeah, very interesting talent choices here. We had a lot of Sergeant Hammer played yesterday, or not once on level 20 have I seen the Lava Strike talent taken. So pretty interesting to have them also ignore the 20 talent on Illidan. Very curious what's happening if we see Acer going for level 20 there. Oh, Black Scorp actually in a bad spot. Falcon is being attacked. Chino moves in and helps him out. And they go straight for a Pony and try to take him out. And that's where that slow would come in very handy. But I don't think Black Scorp is going to need it to take down Sonya and down she goes.
Falls. Green now, unfortunately, now ends up getting out as well there for Team Acer, and now it's going to be a little bit more difficult here to try and control the middle. It's going to be around a 30-second window here where it's going to be a 5-on-4 situation, and they're having to deal with this little wave pushing in from the top against their core, so this is going to be a Dragon Knight here for them.
And this is going to be a very strong Dragon Knight. We are 18 minutes into the game, and that Dragon Knight is going to do work, and quite a lot of it. Level 20 is soon going to hit for Acer though, and maybe with the 20 talent they can turn things around here, but they don't have it yet.
Well, just trying to slowly push on forwards. Hollow's going to take a charge to the face, and actually is able to just scoot on around there. But this heap is taking a lot of damage, and with Falcon at the back as well, and the healing ward down just in case they need to keep themselves well and truly alive, this is a great engagement for them.
And there we go, rewind taken on Mirrodin. We have Vala with the Nexus Frenzy, the talent that we expected on Sergeant Hammer, and also Hardened Shield on Sonya. Initiation already started, but they're just trying to right-click the core, and with the Dragon Knight, they're gonna get that kill. This is going to be the 2-0 for We Are Not Prepared, taking down Team Acer. Congratulations to the Spanish team for the 2-0 victory in the ESL Major League.
And if there was any way they were going to try and turn that engagement around at the very end with their level 20 talents kicking in, taking Nexus Frenzy and then focusing down on Uther, who had imposing presence, really wasn't going to do it, unfortunately, there for the Valor. So, tough times for them. But again, congratulations to We Are Not Prepared for doing so well there, and with that 2-0 victory. And it looked closer in that second game, gotta say, but in the end they were victorious.
Yeah. We're Not Prepared played this very well. I was surprised by the 20 talents we had, especially on Illidan, the new talent taken every single time it came into play yesterday.
Yeah.
And we had him on a lot of maps there, especially Fnatic loves the hero. You just can't get away anymore. He is absolutely brutal. It's it's already very difficult to get away from Illidan, but if he has that slow and that extra damage, it's nearly impossible. So I'm really interested to see if in the future We Are Not Prepared is going to go for the same talents and just says, okay, we prioritize Demonic Form in this case, and also the advanced Lava Strike on Sergeant Hammer over the new talents, or if one of the reasons why they didn't go for it was that this is still pretty new to them, and also we mentioned in the first and in the second game that we did not see the hovering mode, which would lend a lot of strength to the Nexus Frenzy talent, and as they went for Stone Skin, maybe that's the reason why we had the advanced Lava Strike here. But overall, great games by both of the teams in this new patch, and I must say that I really like the new meta, at least so far.
Yeah, it's looking really good, and I'm excited to see a few more heroes are just getting incorporated into that meta, as well as people try and find those teething problems amongst the changes that have come along. But anyway, that is it for our first series, guys. We're actually going to go to a short break, and then when we're back here, we're going to go on to El Nexo going up against Fnatic in Series 2. Don't go anywhere.